What the world needs now is love, sweet love.
Let them fight.
Sweet love.
Now I am become death,
Sweet love.
the destroyer of worlds.
Sweet love.
You have your fear, which might become reality.
Sweet love.
And you have Godzilla, which is reality.
On September 23, 2020, images came to light of an article written for GFan magazine. The title was, "Will Cancel Culture Come for King Kong vs. Godzilla?" This is the type of clickbait article that We Got This Covered website would eagerly publish. They'd give their eye teeth for it. A full fifth of one page is dedicated to the definition of blackface, lifted from www.dictionary.com. As if we really need to clear the air of any confusion as to what is blackface, but okay, there's some people living under a rock out there. With the hard-hitting, no-nonsense journalism of articles such as, "Try this one weird trick before bed." It tells us that for personal fun or professional entertainment, blackface is no longer considered socially acceptable. Wow, cuz. Thanks for clearing that up. Then comes a list of individuals such as Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the Jimmys, both Fallon and Kimmel, and Ted Danson. You know, all progressives or liberal elites who are social justice warriors. For several more paragraphs, a litany of sins for entertainers are listed historically. Notably absent are any conservatives or right-wing politicians or judges who have performed in blackface or worn it. Doesn't mention the abhorrent use in the college Greek scene. There's no discussion as to why blackface is bad. There's no historical context to it. There's no mention of the human suffering or the dehumanization of the African American people. The focus, instead, is about the impact it has on the entertainment industry. The overwhelming threat is that shows have been quietly removed. History is being changed, I say! We're now almost at the end of the first page before the 1962 movie King Kong vs. Godzilla is even brought up. It's the whole reason the article is being written. But hey, it's not like Birth of a Nation or The Jazz Singer. It's Asian people dressed in blackface. The article says the natives are not shown as entirely negative, then immediately jumps in to describe them as garbed in ridiculously colored feathered headgear. They're culturally backward, gullible, and alludes that they're cannibals. That's like saying Godzilla's not entirely negative. He is shown to step on people, destroy buildings, evade taxes, and I'm willing to bet he votes independent too. How do you defend something as being good by immediately listing the negatives first? So basically the train's off the rails. Only thing left to do is stuff it full of dynamite and blow it to Sodor. There's a couple more missteps that I'm just going to gloss over that are just also terrible. But now we come to the meat. Today's progressives don't much care for historical context. Black characters in Gone with the Wind were portrayed with dignity and sympathy. Better than the white characters. No, they weren't. Why are you bringing Gone with the Wind into this? But it has drawn cancellation for making these black slaves pay content. The actual transgression must be cancelled. It mentions that Mothra, Godzilla vs. the Thing, versus the Sea Monster, Yog Monster from Outer Space, and King Kong Escapes all have characters that are dressed in blackface. The article winds up with reminding us that King Kong vs. Godzilla is the most successful Godzilla movie to date. Should it and other films be canceled, a large hole in the legacy of Godzilla will result. Right, okay, mate, who is canceling these movies? Cancel culture is a thing, I get it. It's problematic and we need to hash it out. But who is coming for these movies? Who? Where are the villagers with pitchforks storming the castle gates? Did you find them on some subreddit? The straw man built up by this article is so flimsy and large, I'm surprised Nicolas Cage isn't stuffed into it. If this article hadn't been fluffed with so much superfluous content, The writer could have included that Black Lives Matter is going to Antifa, the giant monster movie franchise, with Marxist, communist, Soros agents. Okay, so Birth of a Nation is brought up twice in this article, and I think we need to address it. Based on a book that's originally called The Klansman, with a C, the film was controversial even before its release. It promoted the lost cause of the Confederacy narrative. The blackface used in the movie portrayed black people as unintelligent and sexually aggressive towards white women. The film was acknowledged as the inspiration for the rebirth of the Ku Klux Klan. So maybe this shouldn't be the cornerstone for your argument of, this is my favorite movie and scary progressives are coming to take it away. The movie is, as Roger Ebert said, a great film that argues for evil. You learn something about evil in the legacy of this film. So I should basically note that here in the real world, no one is coming to cancel these Godzilla movies. There should be a great discussion going on to address the issues of this reprehensible technique. Frame it in a historical context so that it can be learned from. Once you take out this imaginary Babadook that you're drawing, isn't this what you want? History preserved, not changed, put into context? But let's get back to GFan. This could have been a great teachable moment. Imagine if the article, which, by the way, has no credit to the author, had taken the angle of, blackface happened, here's why it's bad, here's what we can learn from it, here's how we can do better, and man, isn't it great that we don't have to do this now? But it didn't. It took the angle of, cancel kids hate Godzilla! It had the chance to be the hero of the day in a year of death and fear and just soul-crushing loss. And it didn't. And that's sad. It's unnecessary. But I wasn't surprised. Not at all. Not from the magazine that produced a comic strip called Gfantis vs. Jihadon. Gfantis is the mascot for GFan magazine. This comic strip had blatant Islamophobia, racist caricature, and Trump as a competent, decisive president. I'm not going to dump on the obvious, lifted artwork that makes Greg Land look like he never used Google Images. The letters column of the following magazine featured at least 3 readers who did recognize the comic may have been parody, but it was still in really poor taste and regarded all Middle Easterners as terrorists. I kind of got the feeling like one of the readers was Middle Eastern and personally kind of felt like he was lumped in with all these horrible people. So I'm going to read the author's exact response to this constructive criticism. I guess it's a sad sign of the times that such a comment elicits this kind of reaction. To me, this story was an homage to the old Gorgo Marvel monster comics where the enemies and ultimate losers were America-hating communists. Nowadays, it's America-hating Islamic extremists that are repeatedly threatening the U.S. with destruction while sponsoring and inspiring terrorism all around the world. How is it wrong to use the very real and self-proclaimed enemies of America as villains in a comic strip? Okay, going on. In a story where a giant monster fights a flying robot made out of an oil barrel, taking issue with a character's headgear or a picture on the wall seems to me to be putting too fine a point on things. Okay, maybe the Iranians secretly admire bin Laden because he organized history's most spectacular act of terrorism. And maybe Ahmed was wearing a headrobe because he was a terror consultant from Saudi Arabia. Terror consultant from Saudi Arabia? Maybe he brought the picture of bin Laden with him so he could feel more at home in the Iranian nuclear facility. See, not inexplicable errors, but deeper layers to the complex narrative underlying the deceptively simple-looking story. I don't consider the Gfantis comic as carrying a political agenda. I consider it a simple and silly story of the triumph of good over evil. To my mind, we could do with more of that in popular culture these days. Okay, so mate, which is it? Is it a deceptively complex story, or is it a fun little lark that's a parody? You can't have it both ways. And these people brought up legitimate concerns, and you just brushed them off. Yeah, it's not offensive to you. You're white. Who are the terrorists? They look like Islam practitioners. You can't use a people and religion as your metaphorical shorthand and tell people to get over it. And this was printed in the spring of 2018 for the letters column, so the comic must have come from the issue before that. Were we really having Islamic terrorists as the top threat in America? You know what you could have done? And you would have looked like a damn hero for it? Instead of Islamic terrorists, what about our homegrown racist domestic terrorists? Because I saw a lot of that on the news, chanting blood and soil and you will not replace us. A whole bunch of angry white people scared out of their wits that they're going to get replaced. You could have had Bubba Hotep make a freaking robot dinosaur out of pick-em-up trucks. And then Gifantes could have defeated him and it would have been funny. You don't punch down. You punch sideways and you punch up. Now, what does this comic have to do with the previous article on King Kong vs. Godzilla? Well, it's a Da Vinci Code of problematic behavior. Let's look to earlier this year, as thousands were dying around the world, and the United States was bungling a response to an epidemic that would take 200,000 plus lives. Let's have a look at the G-Fest Twitter feed that is run by G-Fan Magazine. Here's the first one. It looks at all of the Asian countries, China, South Korea, Japan. It doesn't talk about Spain, which was also a pretty big hotspot. It says that, it's typical of this year's U.S. infection rate of the seasonal flu. Oh, hey, who's that at the bottom? It's Neo Monster Island, bringing up the point that it's really a bad idea to use a company Twitter account to spread misinformation like this. I would get immediately banned for that. We're going to put a pin in that and come back to that later. Oh, hey, looks like the virus has only killed 22 really old people with pre-existing serious medical conditions. You know, the flu last year killed 37,000 Americans. By summer, Corona will be long gone. Just wash your hands and relax. Oh, God, a second reference to the flu. In a few short months, COVID killed more people than the flu did. But hey, just wash your hands and relax. Oh, hey, look, he did the math, everyone. He did the math. He just felt encouraged and wanted to share with anxious G-Festers. Staying safe and optimistic. All right, I'm going to go to bat to G-Fest once. The fact is, conventions all over the United States were in a bad spot. If they cancel too far out, they get hit with huge fines from the hotel that would put the entire convention franchise at risk. If G-Fan Magazine, which runs the G-Fest Twitter account, had canceled early, there would not be a G-Fest next year, possibly ever. They would get hit with massive fines. They have to wait until the last minute for the insurance reasons, or it'll kill the con. I had almost 10 conventions and art shows canceled this year. Each had a vibrant and active response to the crisis. They did their best to remain optimistic and realistic, then let people know ahead of time. G-Fest did not that thing. They actively chose to spread misinformation. They banned detractors and actual content creators and fans from their feed. And they treated this as if it was their own personal account. Not how you run a business, not how you let people know that their lives matter. This sort of conspiracy behavior and misinformation is deadly, and it gets people killed. In the same issue that has the King Kong vs. Godzilla cancel culture article, there's a write-up about the Gamera kaiju called Virus. The article comes to a full stop to remind everyone that China has a state-owned propaganda outlet, COVID started in China, as well as some other very questionable COVID data. Can you imagine if Dr. Sarazawa turned to Mark during the King of the Monsters monologue about forgiveness and said, "Hey, you know, Ted Cruz's father killed Kennedy?" You'd find that a mite odd and out of place. Look over here on the right. China is a country that prizes secrecy and crushes dissent. Crushes dissent. G-Fest, you banned people from your page because they brought up that they were upset that you were spreading misinformation. You crushed dissent. Congratulations, G-Fest. You are China. This is a lot of information. But is G-Fan Magazine responsible for the behavior of G-Fans? At the last G-Fest, I witnessed a father and son telling jokes about sexual assault and relating it to kaiju. I confronted them about it, and they said, "Thank you," and quickly walked away. Behavior and acceptance are learned from the top down. That son learns from his father that rape jokes are okay. G-fans look at a magazine and learn that it's okay to make blanket generalizations of Islam, to basically make good look good for a story. Twitter users learn that COVID-19 is just the flu. No big deal. Top down. But is it really dangerous? G-Fan magazine is not well circulated. It's a niche magazine in a niche genre. It might not even sell 500 issues at a time. More people are probably talking about the blackface story than when G-Fan broke the leaks of the Zilla design for 1998. Diamond magazine routinely dumps G-Fan in the clearance list. The last issue seems to suggest the magazine is going into a semi-retirement. So that means I probably spent the last few weeks doing a whole lot of work for nothing. But the point needs to be made as a warning to the fandom for future actions and how they reflect on the community. So what do we do? The COVID tweets definitely turned off a lot of people. There's been some talk about a boycott for the next year. There's been talk about a new con. But what does that really help? Is G-Fan magazine's toxicity representative of G-Fandom's toxicity as a whole? The answer is maybe, but it doesn't have to be. First thing you should do is write the editor. Stop right now and send them a message. Be polite, express your disappointment, tell them about how much you love G-Fest, but that you expect better. I say make attending G-Fest a political act in the face of a fandom that claims it doesn't do politics. See your friends, attend panels, watch movies, research which vendors and artists don't have problematic behavior, and support them with your money. I'm not asking you to go up with torches and Black Lives Matter shirts and start screaming at people. That doesn't help the cause. And that's not what I'm endorsing. I am saying go there and stand for something. For all the tearing apart of this fandom that some little chickens claim that progressives are doing, and social justice warriors are destroying Godzilla, they certainly seem to be doing a good job of that all by themselves. Because the fandom will die without new blood. When potential new fans look at exclusive toxic behavior, they don't join. G-Fandom is a fine whiskey. And the drink is not being diluted with water when new fans come in. The drink is being enhanced with essential ingredients like ginger and maraschino cherries. Reject the bad behavior and call it out. Don't let it fester like a cancer. Make better examples of what G-Fandom is. I was all ready to set fire to everything when this news broke. And I wanted to jump on it immediately. And I made some social media posts and I spread the information around. But while I raged, I also chilled. New information kept coming to light. And I realized this was a bigger story than just one tasteless article. People started taking action. One Twitter account started called G-Fest Concerns. And they're trying to take a peaceful, positive approach. They recognize that everyone's hurting. There was a call for a new magazine, one that has more inclusive voices. We might see something like that by January. There are already a plethora of content creators with podcasts who are tastemakers in the Godzilla fandom that could use your support. The story does not have to end with cancel culture. It doesn't have to end with a really bad magazine. We can move beyond such dated and unnecessary content and leave it as a cautionary tale to future generations. We can put things in context. So for now, just cancel G-Fan magazine, which it may have already done by itself. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Even though it's about 2 weeks out, I think it's a conversation that needs to be had and that action needs to be taken. We are a vibrant community, and we deserve better. We are the apostles of Godzilla, so let's go out and spread his good word. Peace. Always peace.
Maybe because Godzilla is inside each one of us.